So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you coming out to support these candidates and to learn about them so that you'll be informed when you go to the polls. This is the candidate forum for the school board member for Homewood-Flossmoor School District 233. As I said, thank you for taking the time to attend and be informed. I am Sandra Slayton, and I will be moderating the forum this afternoon. And I want to thank the village of Flossmoor, first of all, for allowing us to use this lovely facility for this forum. And I want to thank the Homewood Chronicle for participating with us, getting the information out so everybody knew where to come and when to come. Thank you so much. So as required, I am not a resident of Homewood nor Flossmoor, and thus I do not have a vested interest in the outcome of this election. This is why I can be the moderator here and not one of our Homewood or Flossmoor members.
Excuse me, is your microphone working? It doesn't sound as loud and as coming back to the others, if you can hear.
It is working, as long as you keep your mouth closed.
Keep my mouth closed. Okay.
Okay, thank
Close.
you.
Bear with me for a few minutes. I do have to make a League of Women Voters statement. The League of Women Voters is a 105-year-old nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes a candidate for any office, and the League is not affiliated with any political party. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through informed and active participation of citizens in government, providing this forum for citizens to become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. And we're pleased to provide this service for the community. We're open to membership for anyone 16 years or older, and if you're interested in joining the League, you can go to our U.S. website, LWV.org. Press the join button, and it's very simple. We would welcome you. Our League number, when you go on there, is 157, but you can just scroll through and you can find the Homewood-Flossmoor League. So holding candidate forums has been a core activity of the League of Women Voters, and we have developed a set of protocols that will be followed today. Candidates were provided an advanced written copy of the guidelines and the format that will be used, and they have signed an agreement that they will follow the guidelines as a condition of their participation. I'll take a few minutes to review those rules as a reminder for the candidates and so that you, the audience, will know what to expect. First of all, each candidate has randomly drawn a number and has been seated from left to right in the order of the number they drew. All questions will be asked of all candidates, so please do not submit a question addressed to one particular candidate as it will not be used. Candidates will be allowed a 90-second response to the question. We have timers right in the front here. Wave up your, to keep them on time and let them know how much time they have left for their statements. When the response time is up, the candidate may briefly finish his or her sentence. And if they don't wrap up promptly, we'll send you up there to stop. Following the questioning, each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute closing statement. First of all, I don't know if I mentioned, they get a 2-minute opening statement. 90 seconds to respond to the questions, and 1 minute closing statement. Closing statements will be given in reverse order of the opening statements. For instance, the candidate who gave the first opening statement will be last to give the closing statement. Candidates are asked, and I'm asking now to please put away any electronic devices. And I ask the audience to please silence your cell phones or other devices. Candidates have agreed that their organization, their supporters will not use the forum, portions of the forum, or any audio clips, video clips, cell phone photos, or transcripts thereof for political, advertising, or other purposes. Audio and visual recordings of any kind at this event will not be used. without express written approval of the league. The league will allow audio and video of this event to be broadcast in its entirety. Will only allow audio or video of this event to be broadcast in its entirety, except for the media reporting on this event. In this case, it's the Chronicle newspaper. The candidates have agreed that they, their organizations and supporters will not use the forum, portions of the forum, or any audio or video clips, cell phone photos, etc., for political advertising or other purposes. Question format. Questions must be written on the cards provided here. Questions will be screened, so please keep that in mind. We're here to learn about the issues. No personal attacks or anything of that nature. We have screeners sitting in the back of the room who, once the cards, questions are collected, the screeners will review them to combine duplicates, for instance, and to ensure that the questions are pertinent to the forum here. Please refrain from making expressions of agreement or disagreement so as not to interrupt the forum. And please feel free to applaud at the end of the forum, but not during the forum process, please. If time runs out and there are topics that did not get addressed, I will give the candidates a general summary of the topics so they know what other issues are important to voters. And of course, you may, on your own, contact the individual candidates. Your courtesy and cooperation are greatly appreciated. And to get the questioning started, I have a couple of prepared questions from the league, and then we will take written questions from the audience. Okay, so let's get started.
Will you announce that one candidate is not present?
Thank you. I certainly will. One of our candidates, Ms. Tamekia Smith, unfortunately was not able to participate today because of a job obligation out of town. So, the other 4 candidates are present, and they're all running independently, correct? Okay. So, back to the questions. We'll get started here, and just to warm things up.
Opening statement. Opening statements.
Opening statement.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Guys. Let's start with allowing each candidate a 2-minute period to give their remarks, opening statements. So starting with candidate number 1, Ms. Gipson. You may proceed.
Thank you, Sandra. I'm Lenita Gipson, and can you go out here to my voice?
Press the button here, somewhere on
Push the button there.
there. On button.
There we go. Tap. Oh, and then. No, that's not my time. My voice is already gone. That's my Spanish. Hi, I'm Lenita Gipson, and my family moved to the Flossmoor area 31 years ago. And when I learned that there would be openings on the board, I did a bit of a listening tour, and I reached out to residents, community members, friends, family that all live in the area, just to see whether or not they felt like I could bring value to the board. And as we all know, HF has historically had a great reputation out there. Are some opportunities where I could bring value. I've spent the past 25 plus years in STEM-related occupations, working for global pharmaceutical companies, medical device companies, diagnostic companies in a variety of capacities, finance, product training, training development, management, sales, and most recently I've also served on local and state boards. And most recently I served as the president of my homeowners association here in Flossmoor, 48-unit building. My 4 key areas that I will focus on will be STEM greatness, given that I have a bachelor's degree in biological science as well as an MBA in healthcare. HF is about to open up a $25 million STEM science wing, so just maximizing that, as well as managing and growing the budget, also a safe and supportive schools, and making sure that every student matters. So those are my 4 key areas. please remember Lenita Gipson. Please vote for me. I want to bring STEM to the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on now to candidate number 2, Ms. Leonard.
Hello, my name is Dr. Ariana Leonard. I am a longtime resident of Homewood-Flossmoor. I grew up here. My parents moved us here when I was about 1 year old. My dad was a teacher at Flossmoor Junior High before it was Parker. I went to Churchill Elementary, I went to James Hart Junior High, and I graduated from Homewood-Flossmoor High School in 1999. I spent about 10 years in Florida, and once I had kids, decided I wanted to come back here and raise my kids because this community means a lot to me. My family still lives in this community. They work in this community, and I wanted to raise my kids in this community so that they could attend the great schools that I did. I have a 7th grader at Parker and a 5th grader at Western. They will be at Homewood-Flossmoor High School soon enough, and I'm excited for them to get to experience all the wonderful things HF has to offer. I have a bachelor's degree in political science from Illinois Wesleyan University. I have another bachelor's degree in Spanish education from Illinois State University. I have a master's degree in educational administration from St. Leo University. I have an ed specialist degree in educational administration with a superintendent's endorsement, and I have a doctorate degree in education administration and policy. I currently work as the Director of Language Acquisition for Bloom Township District 206, where we have 2 high schools, Bloom High School, Bloom Trail High School, and an alternative school. I am the Director of Language Acquisition, so I am in charge of the multilingual programming for all of our students who are here learning English. And I just am very passionate about education, and I believe strongly in education. So my 3 things that I'm going to focus on the board is to continue how to support student success, social emotional learning, and safety, how to empower the educators who work at Homewood-Flossmoor High School, and how to engage our community. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Mr. Roundtree.
Yes, hi, good morning. My name is Aredell Roundtree. A lot of people in the community know me as AJ. I'm a long-term Homewood resident, been here for 20 years. Just recently found out that my family has been here since the 40s. So, fun fact. I'm very passionate about Homewood. Like I said, I've been here for 20 years. I volunteered for 9 years or 3 terms on the Community Relations Commission. So a lot of the events that were done downtown Homewood, Chocolate Fest, Dog Days of Summer, all of those events, I was part of the committee that helped put those on. I am a current board member of the Homewood Baseball and Softball League, where I am the president of Rookie B Baseball. I am also a coach for Rookie B Baseball and a coach for Bantam B Softball. I have 2 young kids that aren't in the district. They are in 153, they're in 233. They're in 153 right now, but eventually they will be at HF. My career background is in strategic marketing, where I focus on data-driven decisions, and that threw me off. Data-driven insights and making decisions based off of the data. I'm very grounded in numbers, and I love them. They tell a story, and I would love to be able to come into HF and be able to take a look at the data. They say something and be able to improve upon it. HF has a great reputation, and I want to continue to expand upon that. I do have an undergrad from Governor State University in business administration. My concentration was finance. I hold a master's from Northern Illinois in school business management, focusing on school finance and operations. And then I am a certified chief school business official. So what Lawrence Cook does for the district is what I hold a certification in. And I'm just looking to come in and bring my insights and my financial background to HF to help continue to move it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. O'Quin.
Hold on 1 sec. I'm seeing these things blink. I don't know if they're.
This one? Yes. Hi everybody. I am Dr. Camille O'Quin, and I am a speech language pathologist and a special education administrator. I've worked out here in the Chicago Southland for 25 years in public schools, working as a speech language pathologist or special ed administrator. I grew up right out here. I grew up in Olympia Fields, right down the street. I went to Ridge Central High School, so I'm very familiar with the area and very familiar with the excellence of HF. When my husband and I were raising children, I knew this is where I wanted to be. So we moved to Homewood and lived there for about 10 years. My daughters graduated from James Hart, and now they're freshmen at HF High School, and they are thriving and doing fantastic academically and in the arts. I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Illinois down in Champaign-Urbana. I have a master's degree from Northwestern University, and I have a doctorate in special education from Illinois State University. Go Redbirds. I am now a full-time professor at Governor State University, where I'm training speech-language pathologists and educators. My twin daughters, as I said, grew up right here in Homewood. I spent a lot of time working in the PTA at Homewood over creative arts and legislation. I'm currently a board member for Gigi's Playhouse in Tinley Park. And I'm also the immediate past president for the Council for Exceptional Children Division for Cultural and Linguistic Diverse Learners. So I've spent my entire career looking at education and advocating for the needs of our students. And that is why I am running for HF School Board. Camille O'Quin for the win.
Thank you. Okay. Now, while our screeners, and I should mention this, I think I mentioned it earlier, that with these screens. So while they're pulling together some questions, I've got a couple of prepared questions just to get the ball rolling. And all of the questions will be asked of all of the candidates. Each of the candidates will have an opportunity to respond to each question. And so since Ms. Gipson gave the first opening remark, we're going to go to candidate 2, Ms. Leonard, for the first question. Okay, Ms. Leonard, what is your overall vision for education in this community?
It's an excellent question. As an educator, I believe really strongly that every community deserves a high-quality public education where all of our kids can go and receive an excellent education in any type of pathway that they want. I also strongly believe in education for all, which means that we need to provide programming and supports for all learners, not just our high-achieving, not just our athletes, not just our special education students. Students need to have access to a variety of programming, so if they're not college-bound, they have a pathway where they can be successful after they graduate. Or if they are college-bound, we have a million resources for them to help them get to the college of their choice. So I really, really, really believe that education is the backbone of our society, and I think that our community high school is the backbone of our community. Therefore, it is my belief that we need to continue to ensure that HF provides the excellent education it's known for providing, and that we continue to improve and make it better so that it continues to be an excellent education for our kids, because all kids deserve to have that high-quality public education.
Thank you. Candidate number 2, let's see, that was 2. Number 3 would be Mr. Roundtree. Again, what is your overall vision for education in this community?
This is on, right? Okay. Like Ariana said, or Dr. Leonard, sorry. Education is the cornerstone of a community, and I too believe the same thing. My vision for HF in this community is HF is a top-tier destination district, and I want to continue that. My vision ensures or sees HF being that top-tier destination that people want to seek out. They want to come to Homewood, and they want to live here. Too many times have I seen HF kind of referred to as a second tier. That's not the case. And I envision HF being a premier destination. A destination where students can thrive regardless of the path that they're choosing or the path that they're going down, whether that's college, whether that's career, whether that's within the trades. HF is already on the path to doing that, and I just want to ensure that it's on its way and that it's going to continue.
Okay, thank you so much. And let me just remind you candidates, please to address the audience. I don't live here, I cannot. Thank you. Ms. O'Quin, the same question. What is your overall vision for education in this community?
Hi, Camille O'Quin, Dr. Camille O'Quin, O'Quin for the Lynn. I strongly believe that great schools start with great teachers. So really empowering our teachers is the best place to start. And one of the best ways to empower our teachers is to pay them, right? Pay them what they're worth, pay them what the work that they're doing. They're working really hard. So it's important that we give our students a fair wage as we're compared to other schools here in the area. The other thing I think is really important to empower our teachers is through professional development, allowing them that opportunity to learn new strategies, more evidence-based strategies that the school can offer them in-house, or providing them the opportunity to go somewhere else to learn some of those things. The other thing that's really important is to really promote education for our students. Academic rigor is highly important, and one thing that's so great about HF is that extracurriculars are already a huge part of the program. So providing that opportunity, continuing to provide that opportunity for our students so that they can thrive in the arts, in sports, all of those things together make for a well-rounded experience for our students and our staff.
Thank you so much. And then we'll switch back now to candidate number 1, Ms. Gipson.
Great question. According to the Illinois report card, HF has scored in the exemplary. Okay, I'm sorry.
Take your time.
Okay. So just making sure that HF is scoring in the highest possible tiers, and based on the Illinois report card, HF is not on par with some of the other schools in the state. So really looking at the MTSS and as well as the Terrace metrics, and looking at the data. I know another candidate mentioned that, but the data should really inform decisions on curriculum. And for me, if elected, I would hopefully be asked to serve on the planning committee, which measures curriculum and development, and be able to provide inputs in that area, and then to increase test scores like the science scores, which are down versus the state. And also bringing my STEM knowledge and being able to impact or influence that could hopefully not only improve the current ranking of the school, but ultimately home values as well for people that don't have students in the education system.
Thank you for your response. Okay, I have a few questions from the audience, so let's get into those. And this little question will go to, let's see, candidate 3. What in your background leads you to believe you'll be an effective school board member?
Just starting the question now. So, my background is in strategic marketing. I work for a landscape lighting company, and being in marketing, I believe that I'm grounded in the data. I'm constantly looking at data, trying to figure out ways to improve the company's standings. It is that, my strategic decision making, along with my educational background in school business management and my chief school business official endorsement, is what's going to help me become be a good candidate for the board. I have a foundational knowledge of school district finance, and I believe that is something that is beneficial to have on this board. Being able to take a look at the numbers, ensure that we are continuing to put students' needs first, while also looking at, like I said, I'm big into numbers, taking a look at the data to see, are the kids benefiting from this, and understanding the return that we have on our investment.
Thank you.
Hello. Camille O'Quin.
Yes.
Yes. So I have 25 years of experience working in the schools. That's what I've been doing as my career. I have spent my time not only as an educator, but also as an administrator. So I have a very unique understanding of what all goes into working into a school on many different levels. I also have experience on boards, working boards. Some of them are local, and some of them are national, but all of them are geared towards education and children and adults with special needs. So this is something that I have been doing for a very long time, and I'm very passionate about. At the end of the day, though, I'm a full-time professor now, so at the end of the day, I am a teacher. I'm still a teacher. I still value good quality education. I still value empowering our students. I still get so excited when my students learn something new. I still really value this community and bringing our community together so that we understand also the importance of HF and what it brings to our community. So at the end of the day, I'm a teacher. I just really want to keep HF great and to bring up the value, the experience, and for educators. She's telling me to stop.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to Ms. Gipson. What in your background leads you to believe you'll be an effective school board member?
And as I mentioned before, when I learned that there would be openings, I did do a bit of a listening tour and find out whether or not they thought I could bring value to the board. And as it turns out, I could. And I have a unique story in that it's inspirational to a lot of students and even parents, given that my mom passed when I was 12, my grandparents raised me, moved out here, and education is really the primary reason why I have been successful in my life. It's been the cornerstone, it's been the foundation, and quite honestly, you really need a solid education and a support system to back you to really propel in college, career, and life, for sure. I've been a member of a sorority for the past 24 years that's heavily invested in education. I served as scholarship chairman, financial secretary, as well as a number of different fundraising chairman, a number of different roles to help support the programs that go to children in disadvantaged communities. But I truly do believe that my background in STEM as well as in business can help the students to move forward and see that they do have, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and given, regardless of the circumstances that are the cards that they've been dealt, that they can be successful and they can win.
Thank you. Ms. Leonard?
Hello. Okay, so my background as an educator, I've been an educator for over 20 years. I've been a teacher and I am now a district level administrator. I have been a district level administrator for 15 years. I've worked with a lot of school boards in a variety of capacities. I hold my superintendent's endorsement, and so I do have a really good understanding of how school districts work. I know the function of a school board and how they're supposed to work with the superintendent. In my role, I work with a lot of federal and state grants, so I'm really good with budgets and money and finance, but I'm also a curriculum writer. So I have a wide scope and knowledge of education, and I think that that's going to help me on the school board because I've been on the other side as an administrator and a teacher working with school boards, and I believe that strong collaboration is what's going to make our school district successful. And as a side-by-side leader, I'm always willing to work with others as opposed to working top-down. And so I just think my knowledge of education, my experience in the K-12 system, my experience as an administrator and as a grant writer and just as a community member will really help me as a board member.
Thank you so much. Going to a new question here. And we'll be starting with candidate number 4, Ms. O'Quin. What do you think will be HF's biggest challenge in the coming years?
There's a loaded question, right? We have a lot of changes going on at the federal level. I think that's probably the number one thing that's on a lot of people's minds as it comes to education. We have some changes coming down related to the Department of Education. We have changes coming down to some initiatives that may impact how we are able to access funding and how we're able to access different kinds of programming. So I think that's probably on the forefront of most people that are working in education right now. Those are the things we're watching the most. One of the things I'm most interested in and surrounding that conversation is really reaching out to our community, kind of like what we're doing right now, right? Where we're coming together to have open dialogue and conversation and communication about what's important to us, what's important to our community, how do we want to see our funding be used, how do we want to access that. I really think bringing in the community into a lot of those conversations will be very helpful and go a long way as these changes are occurring on a larger scale all around us. Keeping it in our own backyard and having conversations amongst ourselves about how we want to handle that, I think will be very important over the next few years.
Thank you for your response. Ms. Gibson, give me the question again.
Yes.
Okay. What do you think will be HF's biggest challenge in the coming years?
HF has done great question. HF has done a great job historically, and with this reputation, it's considered to be, quite frankly, the crown jewel of the South Suburbs. And I just think we need to, maybe put some icing on that cake and just make it even more better. So as I mentioned earlier, just making sure it's at the highest right, so moving it from the commendable status to exemplary status, and really tweaking some things. My personal background is in STEM and business, so I'm really focusing on that and helping to bring school ranking back to its pre-pandemic years. That's really important as well. And then with the new science wing that will be opening in March, it's a phenomenal facility, $25 million facility, and it's one of the few high schools in the state that will have net zero technology due to the building and how it's built. So, students right from walking in the door would be exposed to a whole different realm and be able to compete locally, nationally, and globally for opportunities. So I think just by way of that, you'll see some improvements in the school ranking and then, of course, property values for communities.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Leonard?
Thank you. So I would echo Dr. O'Quinn's, our worry as educators right now that we are seeing some changes at the federal level, and I think that could pose some challenges as some of those changes trickle down to the local and state level. So I do think we need to be mindful and creative and think proactively on how we might address some of those challenges when it comes to budgets and what types of programming we're providing for our students and what type of access we're giving our students. So I think that could be a challenge. I also think because education is in a state of flux, especially at the federal level right now, and there's a general nationwide teacher shortage. So I think making sure that we retain and attract really high quality educators, because we want our students to have the best. And I want my kids to have the best. I want your kids to have the best. And so we need to attract high quality educators, and that could be challenging depending on a variety of factors. So making sure that we're working together creatively and collaboratively to ensure that we're attracting really high quality people to work with our students in the classrooms. And then I just think for kids live in a different world than when I went to high school, than when you went to high school. There's so much technology, AI, there's so much SEL going, social emotional things going on with these kids. That is going to always be a challenge for us, so I think we need to continue to work hard and see how we can work together as a community to address those challenges head on, both in and outside of the classroom.
Thank you. All right. And finally, for this question, Mr. Roundtree?
Yes, hi. I believe one of the biggest challenges for
Let's just repeat the question so people just came in.
Oh, sure.
What do you think will be HF's biggest challenge in the coming years?
I agree. I think the changes at the federal level that will eventually trickle down to the state, that will eventually trickle down to the schools, is going to be one of the biggest ones. I think in how we deal with that is going to speak volumes. I think getting ahead of it is going to be key. HF is, doing a very good job of that. I mean, with the 6 months of reserves or of funds in reserves, so that they can tackle tackle any budgetary issues. State funding isn't always guaranteed to begin with, and I think HF is already, doing a great job with that. I think another big concern that would, issue for HF would be some of the mandates that are coming around equality, equity for everyone, and I think HF, like I said, HF is doing a great job of ensuring that everyone has equal opportunities, and I think that needs to be at the forefront of our mind when we talk about HF, when we talk about our schools and our students, ensuring that everyone feels safe and included and heard, and ensuring that we have the appropriate resources for everyone.
Very good, thank you so much. All right, a new question. Special education in HF is in need of reform. That's a statement. I don't know that to be a fact, but the question is, what are your thoughts on how we can make it better? And that would go to Ms. Gipson.
My thoughts on how to make it better is to engage the community, engage the students, engage the teachers, and get their perspective on it, as well as gain some potential solutions on how it can be improved. It definitely takes a village to solve a problem, and it just won't be one person or board member that can impact that change. However, we're sitting on the planning committee, for example, that does directly impact curriculum and education. So given that I'm given an opportunity to sit on that committee, then I could then take that feedback and bring it to the committee and see what changes that we can implement to positively impact special education.
Thank you. Ms. Leonard.
This actually is really dear to me. I have my youngest son is autistic, so I have learned a lot about the special education process, just going through it as a parent on his side of things, when he was diagnosed at 3. So I do really have a passion for special education, and I think that, we need to look at what current research says, but we also need to learn from our special education students and special education adults who have gone through programs like this, because sometimes we think we're doing something in the best interest of a kid, and we may not really be doing what's in the best interest of a kid. So like I myself as a parent have been really learning from autistic adults on what it means to be autistic, because I don't know what that means. And so if they can lend some light and shed some light on what they would have liked to have done for them in school, then that's what I do and advocate for my son, so that he can get that in the school, because he can't always advocate for himself. So we need to make sure that we're listening to the voices who have those lived experiences, so that we can make informed decisions on how to best educate our students. I know that we also have to follow federal and state law when it comes to special education. Special education is a huge federal law idea. And so making sure that we're doing things within the law, but also making sure that we're providing our students with every single opportunity that they can absolutely have to be successful when they leave our walls, because we need them to be successful outside of the school. And what resources and supports and therapies can we provide within the curriculum, within the school day, to get them to be successful outside of the school day. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Roundtree, special education at HF is in need of reform. What are your thoughts on how we can make it better?
I think we can make it better by looking at the data, taking a look at numbers. There are studies out there around special education and what works. I think that we need to be cognizant of that, and I think we need to do our research. I think that we also need to meet students where they are today. I think we need to meet students where they are today, ensuring that they have access to everything that they need, anything that they need, keeping 504s and IEPs, not that anyone's trying to get rid of them, but ensuring that we are doing our due diligence and ensuring that everyone, has a path forward and has a trajectory to, exceed beyond the 4 walls of the high school. There's 8 because it's 2 buildings, but ensuring that they are set up for the future. And I think that, that starts with the data. Like I said, there's studies done, and we can benefit to take a look again and improve everything.
Thank you. And Ms. O'Quinn?
Yes, hi, Camille O'Quin. Of course, special education is a passion of mine. I had my whole doctorate in special education. So I spent a lot of time really studying it, and I too, look at it from the lens too, how can we perfect it? How can we improve upon it? At HF, I know that we do a great job of providing the services to our students as is mandated through IDEA. But to echo a little bit off of what Dr. Leonard said, I do have a child who has special needs and benefits from 504 programming. Hard of hearing and stuttering. And one way is to really talk to our students, talk to adults who are impacted by that to try to get a good handle on what might be best for the student in that situation at school. Another thing to look at also is what was mentioned earlier is MTSS, which is multi-tiered system of supports. How we're providing interventions to our students before and even after they receive special education services to make sure that the services that are being provided are effective and are helping the students as they're working through the program. And not just in school, like Willa said earlier, after graduation, are we preparing them after they leave our 8 walls?
Some of you kind of touched on this topic a little while ago, federal funding. The question is, what impact would cuts to federal funding have on our district, and how would you address that shortfall for our most vulnerable students? And that question goes to candidate Leonard.
Can you repeat one more time?
Yes, please. What impact would cuts to federal funding have on the district? Not sure you would know that, but that might not be a fair question for you, all of you. But how would you address that shortfall for our most vulnerable students?
This is something I actually think about every day in my current role as a multilingual director and a bilingual director for my school district, because I rely on federal funds for a lot of my programming. And so it is something I think about, and it is something I think we all need to think about, because there is a possibility that we could lose it. And so we need to start thinking about that now and being proactive and start looking at our budgets as a whole and seeing where we can get creative, where we can break funding, how we can consolidate some things to maybe open up avenues of funding for other things. And then looking at other state and local grants to see if there's anything else out there that could help supplement what the district already gets from the state through the evidence-based funding and property taxes and all the things that come into our state budget, or our district budget. So I do think we need to start thinking about these things, because it really could impact it. Unfortunately, a lot of the programs that get impacted first are the ones that help our most vulnerable student populations, like multilingual learners, special education students, homeless, migrants. So we need to really be mindful of that, and I think that we have to be proactive and start thinking about what we can do and how we can continue to save money. I know we have 6 months in reserve, but maybe we need a little bit more than that, and how we can continue to start saving where we can and consolidating where we can and getting creative and looking for other options to supplement.
Thank you. Mr. Roundtree, you want to address that question, or would you like me to repeat it?
Yeah, exactly what Dr. Leonard said. I would address these cuts by, maybe 6 months of reserves needs to be expanded back to 10 months, where we were, last year. I think it was January 2024. We do need to look at, seeing where we can consolidate. There are a lot of things on the school district budget that, kind of go unchecked or beyond our knowledge. How I can relate to it personally, sitting in I have streaming service after streaming service, you let one go, and before you know it, you've been paying for one for, so many months or so many years, and that's how school district budgets are. And it's a massive thing taking a look at where we can consolidate. I mean, how many programs are there out there, software programs out there that school districts, they do the same thing. Is that an avenue that we can, take a look at, and is there one program that's, we can use that does it all, or does most of it? We can make cuts there. Looking into, additional grants that are out there is an opportunity. There's so many ways, are there things that we can do at the state level, or that would help us out? But, yeah.
Thank you. Ms. O'Quin.
Yes, hi, Camille O'Quin. Yes, I think about this too, quite a bit. In fact, it's why I decided to run for school board. When we had the changes at the federal level, I anticipated some of these changes that are occurring right now in real time before our very eyes. And it's the very reason the next morning I decided I need to do what I can to help my local community, my local schools with the knowledge base that I have. I too have experience writing grants, looking for some local funding, looking at how the state might be of support. Because, like was mentioned, yes, we have 6 months in reserve. I don't know if that, is something we need to look at a little bit more deeply, because the changes at the federal level could definitely have an impact on us. So getting much more creative and looking things a little differently. This is also why I mentioned earlier, bringing in the community to have some of these conversations about how we can be creative with funding and with access to funds. Bringing in this entire community, not just the HF staff, but everyone here at Homewood-Flossmoor, and really having open dialogue and conversation about the changes.
Thank you. And finally, for this question, Ms. Gipson.
Yes, that's definitely a hot topic. I've been regularly attending the board meetings, and this came up during the last board meeting. And the current superintendent mentioned that, right now it's not a thing. In terms of the school district, we currently only are utilizing 1% of the federal funds. The majority of the funding for the school district is coming from the property taxes. I'm sorry, I can't really hear the property taxes. So right now it's not a thing per se. However, just knowing, I've mentioned before, I have been a financial secretary. I've served on various teams and corporations working on annual budgets, and I plan to, when I do win, hopefully I can be selected to work on the finance committee, and especially as Steve Anderson and Dr. Cook are leaving us, I can hope to serve some continuity in that capacity of that committee to have a balanced budget, as well as continue with the phenomenal job they've done in terms of the $30 million in tax abatements that they've accomplished for taxpayers.
Thank you. Okay, on a different topic here, how will you address censorship at the curriculum and school library levels? And that question goes to Mr. Roundtree.
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. How will you address censorship at the curriculum and school library levels?
Okay. I would address it by working with the community, working with the stakeholders that are, available, the teachers, the students, to understand exactly what they feel is being censored, and then finding out from them what do they want to see, and ensure that it's being represented. If it's what's going to improve the school, if it aligns with the long-term goals of the school and it's beneficial, then I want to make sure that it's not being censored. Working with the stakeholders and making sure that we have the appropriate tools and literature, whatever is needed for that.
Thank you.
Camille O'Quin, I feel strongly that that's a collaborative decision. Really gaining some information access to the community, either that be through open forums or electronically. We can send out surveys to get that data and get that information from the community. I feel very strongly as a board member that my role really is to kind of be the voice for the community and to bring the questions, the concerns, the needs of what's happening in everyday households to the faculty and the administrators. So, any kinds of conversations like that needs to be discussed and openly decided using data that's been collected by reaching out to the community, talking to the community, and receiving that information and input from the collective community.
Thank you. Ms. Gibson, would you like to share? How will you address censorship at the curriculum and school library levels?
So I do feel like we are blessed living in Illinois and having a governor that supports having not banning books. And so that's a benefit for us in being here in this space. However, if there are concerns, definitely need to pay attention to that, gain feedback, listen to the community, have forums, engage parents, students, the community members to find out more about those concerns and see what the disconnect is, because if it's a concern for one, it may be a concern for others as well. But I do believe that we support having open access to books.
Thank you. Ms. Leonard?
This is also another hot topic that you're hearing a lot about at the federal level and just across the nation in general. And I just have to say that I am pro free speech and I am pro access to all information. I don't believe in censoring information for any reason. And so I also think that it's important for our students to know how to critically consume information. There's a lot of great things out there and a lot of misinformation out there. So that's a skill we need to teach our kids in the classroom. So I would support not censoring things, and I would really trust our professionals who are in the schools, who are writing the curriculum, who are working in the libraries, and trust that they can make the decisions that are right for our kids. Because we hire them for a reason, and it's not my job to say, well, I don't think you should do that. I'm not a librarian, I'm not in the classroom right now, I'm an administrator, so we need to trust the people that we have working in our schools because we hire them for a purpose, and I trust our educators to make the right choices and right decisions for our students, and I trust our students to make the right choices and decisions for themselves. And I trust that our families are going to make the right decisions for themselves. So I think that we need to obviously work together, but we need to trust the professionals who are in those roles to make the right decisions for our kids.
Thank you for your response. Ms. O'Quin,
Yes.
question for you. Let me get the first response. How do you propose the district improve the school's ranking and the performance of students in ELA and math? And for someone, please tell me what ELA is. English language
Arts.
Arts. Okay. English language arts.
Yes. Literacy happens to be my background. My doctorate's in special education, but with a specific focus on literacy and cultural responsivity as it relates to literacy skills for our students. We have a saying in the education world that up until third grade, you're learning to read, and then after third grade, you're reading to learn. So once we have a student that is entering high school and struggling with reading, their access to all education is going to be impacted, including math, because even math includes a lot of literacy skills. So my number one issue would be doing what I can to address the literacy skills that our students are presenting with the knowledge base that addressing the literacy will have a ripple effect to other subject matters as well. And not just addressing literacy, but using the multi-tiered system of support those leveled interventions to help our students, because you might think, oh, they're in high school, but even our high school students are still struggling with some of these literacy skills. So spending some time and energy, focused attention, coaching on literacy, it will be my #1 spot. Yeah, she told me to stop.
Thank you. You took me right back to 5th grade and those horrible word problems.
Hey, I'm a speech language pathologist. I love that stuff.
Ms. Gibson, would you respond to that question? How do you propose the district improve the students' ranking and the performance of students in ELA and math?
So I know there's been a lot of discussion about potentially doing away with weighted GPAs. However, weighted GPAs is a good way to increase the school's ranking, and it also helps the students to be in a more real world situation, and it makes them more competitive when they're applying for colleges as well as beyond. So I think that that's one way that we can make a specific impact on the school ranking, is having the students taking the EAP classes, taking the classes as well as passing the classes. Those two factors can help positively impact the school ranking. And then in terms of like MTSS, that's like a real thing. And then the Terrace metrics, those are two systems that are currently in place at HF, and HF has done a great job of having the resources and the supporting systems to help students meet them where they are and find out where they need, where their needs are academically in order to address them and course correct.
Thank you. Ms. Leonard?
This is always a hot topic at the high school level. I worked in kindergarten, middle school, and high school, and oftentimes you hear high school teachers say, I'm not a reading teacher, I'm a math teacher. Or I'm not a math teacher, I'm a social studies teacher. I'm not a reading teacher, I'm a science teacher. Well, guess what? We all teach reading in some capacity. So I think we need to ensure that our curriculum is rigorous and is holding our kids to high expectations, but we also need to invest in our teachers to make sure that they understand that as a science teacher, as a math teacher, as a social studies teacher, as a music teacher, you know how to teach literacy embedded within your content area. And that comes with professional development, professional learning for our staff. I do think that we have to trust that we have the right people making the decisions for our kids. As a school board member, I'm not supposed to be in the minutia because that's not my role. My role is to support and work with the superintendent. We have a really fantastic superintendent coming on board that I'm very, very excited about. She has a strong background in literacy development and closing achievement gaps. And I think that we have a real opportunity to address this with her coming in. And as school board members, I want to be there to support her and help her and collaborate with her to make sure that it gets done. And then trust her to implement it with her teachers and trust the teachers to implement it within their classroom, because literacy is in every classroom, and we need to make sure that our teachers have the tools to teach that and embed it within their content areas.
Thank you. Mr. Roundtree?
Yeah, so I agree with everyone who has said literacy. I think reading is the foundation, right? Everyone needs to read in order to understand what they're looking at. Math has reading, science has reading, it all has reading. And I think first understanding where the students are on that scale, how can they read, what level are they reading at, and then going from there. Improving the literacy skills. Kids today are so used to looking at shorthand text without punctuation, without capitalization, without long form text. It's the letter U instead of U. So I think working with the kids to understand where they are and teaching them how to read is going to be beneficial. Another thing that I've heard is that getting kids into fine arts is beneficial. Kids who are in fine arts have better GPAs, and that's something that's very important to me. Not just because my wife is an arts teacher, it makes sense, right? And they go on to succeed. The same thing with literacy. I think if we improve both of those, I think we can definitely improve the academic standing and the academic standing of our students.
Okay. Thank you very much. And back to number 1. Okay.
How will you work to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in our faculty, staff, and curriculum? Ms. Gipson.
How would I work to promote?
Promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in our faculty, staff, and curriculum.
Great question. As I mentioned, I have been regularly attending the board meetings. This has come up as well, and the current superintendent did address that. And the profile of a Viking, the North Star, is diversity and inclusion. So that is an ongoing, still consistent program within the profile of the Vikings. So that's not going anywhere. So we're going to continue on the path and not going to make any types of changes. Well, I say we as I'm on the board right now, but wishful thinking. But yeah, it will continue to be the North Star of the Vikings. I don't know if I answered your question.
Do you feel like you did?
I don't know. I think I did. I may have brain implication.
We thank you for your response. Okay, Ms. Leonard, how will you work to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in our faculty, staff, and curriculum?
Again, as a board member, it's our job to work with the superintendent to ensure that they are hiring the right people to be in the classrooms. And I think that it is very important that we have a staff that's representative of the students that we serve. I also think that our curriculum needs to reflect that. It needs to be inclusive and open to everybody and accessible to everybody. So making sure that any curricular updates are relevant and connected to our students and our community. And again, working with our faculty to make sure that they have the professional development that they need, and as just being an advocate for that. So when staff want to promote something, just making sure that I'm also supporting what they want to do, because I am a believer in equity and inclusion and equality and diversity, because I think that's what makes our community amazing, is learning from each other and having different perspectives. Every kid has a story and they have something to offer. And that's what's great about having so many different types of people in our community, and our lived experiences are different, and we need to learn from that and embrace it and celebrate it. So I would obviously promote all of the things that the school is doing to promote equity, diversity, and inclusion, because I truly believe in it. And so if there's anything I can do to help support it, I will.
Thank you for your response. Mr. Roundtree?
We're going to call you Mr. Leonard, weren't you?
He's not here.
That's okay. So I think it's very important for students to see themselves within their teachers. We have a very diverse group of students that attend HF. We have a very diverse group of community members, and I think that's important. I think that also students should be able to relate to the text that they're reading or what they're learning, because it's hard to relate to. You know, if it's hard to relate to, it's going to go over their head, or they're just going to ignore it. And I think it's very important to give them real life based text. I hope I'm articulating that well, but they just need to be able to understand it and relate to it. I think that's going to help improve. I would support any policy that's put in place to ensure that we are, taking a look at the best applicants and diversifying our staff at HF. And I believe that, one of the right steps that we're taking is by the hiring of Dr. Norrell as the incoming superintendent, who at the last board meeting actually got it approved to hire assistant superintendent of staff services. So I think HF is on the right path to ensuring that, and yeah, I think.
Thank you.
Yes.
Ms. O'Quin.
Yes, hi, Camille O'Quin. Absolutely. We live in a diverse community here, and that's not changing anytime soon. And not just diversity in terms of race, but age. We have a very diverse community that we have right here in our backyards. So diversity is a part of the framework of Homewood-Flossmoor. So HF will continue to provide services to the diverse representation that has been in existence at the school for a very long time. And that's not just race, not just age, but also inability as well. We have a lot of diversity that we serve. And equity matters. Every student deserves the level of education and access that they need in order to be successful. So equity will still be a huge part of what we provide. And inclusion just means making sure that everyone who has a voice can be present and supported when they are in the room. So those things will definitely continue. DEI is at the center of my advocacy work as an educator, as a professor, as a researcher. So I will definitely bring a lot of that to the board when you invite me in.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, I have a new question here. Question will go to Ms. Leonard. Yes. What is your stand on expanding LGBTQ class options?
I think that kind of speaks to the question that we just answered. I am an advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I think that our curriculum and our resources have to reflect that. And I would support additional courses for all types of different types of diverse learners and diverse topics, because that's what makes our community. We have to embrace the people that are here. And so we do have a large LGBTQ plus community in where we live and at HF. And they also have to see themselves represented. So I think it's important that all subgroups have, they have to have windows and mirrors, right? We have to be able to see what is out there and learn about other people, but we also have to see ourselves reflected in the curriculum and the instruction and our resources that we have available to us, because that's what empowers students to say, like, oh, that person did that, and they look just like me, or they have the same orientation as me, I can do that too. So I really do think it's important that we do provide inclusive curriculum and resources and opportunities for students, and if they choose to take those courses, that's amazing, and let them have that choice, because student choice is also very important.
Thank you. Mr. Roundtree?
I fully support. Yes, I think that, as I said last, with the previous question, kids need to be able to see themselves within their coursework. They need to be able to see themselves within their readings, and I think it's extremely important that everyone has representation out there, and it's going to help them relate. It's going to better position them to go out into the world and interact with each other. Being able to hear the stories of the LGBTQIA plus community is going to be able to, I think it's going to create better individuals, right? They're going to be able to empathize for those that are not within the community. Those that are within the community, they're going to be able to see themselves and understand the history and understand the stories that, are so pivotal. So I'm fully supportive of expanding the LGBTQIA plus offerings.
It's a mouthful.
I was saying it too fast.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. O'Quin?
Yes. This goes along with the DEI question for me too. Absolutely, making sure we're embracing all the diversity in our community, and that includes, sexual orientation, gender, all of those things should be included, and providing inclusionary services for all students and equitable access to all things that our students need. As long as we're reaching out to our community the way that we are called upon to do, to really answer some of these questions. If there is interest in supporting some kind of coursework that's related to these things, and I absolutely think that our students deserve to be represented. Representation truly does matter, and as long as our students can see themselves in the teachers, that'll help them grow to learn that they too can do these things once they leave high school. So yes, absolutely, I support all DEI initiatives.
Thank you. Ms. Gipson?
Yes, I support, I don't know the full, but I support LGBTQ. Yes, I do. And as I mentioned earlier, And as you all know, at the North Star of profiling planking is DEI. So, and that of course includes these initiatives. And I think sitting on the board, if you're especially sitting on the planning committee, you'll be able to impact curriculum and education and really look at the coursework and the courses that are being offered and seeing what opportunities there are to diversify. And I'm not exactly sure the process of bringing in courses, but I know this came up not too long ago in one of the board meetings. So I think it's a matter of looking at the data and seeing what classes the kids actually want to take and seeing and then going from there. But I'm fully in support of any course that will broaden their horizon and have people think, students think critically and think differently and just learn beyond their little bubble.
Thank you. All right, we're moving on to a new question. How would you address the unique educational challenges brought on by the pandemic? And this goes to candidate 3, Mr. Roundtree. Again, how would you address the unique educational challenges brought on by the pandemic?
The pandemic was not easy for anyone. Let me just say that first and foremost, and I think we need to understand exactly where, what impact it has had on our students. And I think by understanding that, we can then address where we go forward. What sort of resources do the students need? And I think from there, we can move forward. I would support any initiative that is going to help students succeed, whether that's mental health services, whether that's programs that allow students, who struggle within the classroom, an opportunity to come in at a certain time and learn, if that's beneficial for them. I think that I would be in full support of any sort of avenue that allows students to be able to move forward and receive the quality education that they deserve, and advocate for the resources, advocate for them to have the resources that they need.
Yes, I have a very unique perspective. I was just thinking about this because I was a parent during the pandemic of school-age children, but I was also a teacher because I was a full-time professor at the time, and I was also a student at the same time as I was working through my doctoral program. So I have a perspective that kind of crosses all the different aspects that we were all impacted by during that time. I can tell you firsthand as a parent, and I'm sure you guys can relate, that the students really suffered social-emotional in really needing to get reconnected to other people in the classroom setting. So I would really advocate for increased social-emotional support for our students in the classroom setting. And I think the other area I saw the greatest impact was just access to their educational, their books, their learning all together, because suddenly everything was online. So it was very different. So continuing to support those literacy skills, there it is again, literacy skills to really help our students as they're continuing to learn some of these new skills. So academics and social emotional are probably the two areas I think I've seen most impacted by the pandemic.
Thank you. Ms. Gibson?
Yes. And one of my areas is making every student matter. And each student is different and unique and has different learning styles as well. You mentioned, another candidate mentioned that she was getting her doctorate. I was in the process of getting my MBA during the pandemic, and just like some students probably excelled in that type of environment, and some did not, because it's so different. But for me, I excelled because it took all the distractions away and I could focus just on school. So that was good for me. But for some, it's not, it didn't quite work out. So I think it's important to meet students where they are and find out their mental health and academically, like where they need additional resources to help get them back to pre-pandemic types of levels. And there are so many counselors, social workers, and school psychologists available at HF that can assist with that process. And again, a lot of systems in place to assist with that as well.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Leonard, on this question.
Yeah, we're still seeing one time to be alive, right? That was crazy. Like, none of us have ever gone through something like that. And now we can all say we have that shared lived experience of the insanity that was the pandemic. And we are still seeing the effects of that in a variety of ways, in social emotional learning, in academics. So there are significant learning gaps that need to be addressed still to this day. We also saw some positives, I will say, because we learned that students have various ways of learning and that some students thrived on the online learning better than the others. And so it gave us an opportunity to address how are we providing instruction to kids and how are we best serving our students. And so I think we still need to meet every student where they are and address what learning gaps they have, what learning needs they have, what social and emotional needs that they have, and still continue to move forward because we will still be seeing those effects for many years to come because the kids that were in kindergarten during the pandemic are still in the school system right now and still have needs that we have to address. And just like Dr. O'Quin said, it was such a crazy time for all of us. I also defended my dissertation on Zoom, and and I'm more of an in-person person anyway, so that was difficult for me. But the thing is, we have to meet kids where they are, and we have to continue to work together to ensure that all kids have access to a high-quality public education. And I know I say that a lot, but I really, really, really believe that.
Thank you for your response. Okay, we're getting down to the last one, possibly two questions. I feel like this question has been answered, but I'll tell you one of the early on questions. What do you think will be HF's biggest challenges in the coming years? And the question I just received was, what do you see as the most critical issue facing the school district? They seem to be pretty much the same question. So, just so whoever asked that question knows that. I don't want you to think I just ignored it. So, final question is, what are your plans to engage our elementary districts to better prepare incoming students? And that question goes to Ms. O'Quin.
I think that's a great question. Really partnering with 153 and 161, I think, is paramount. So setting up some opportunities for benchmarks where we can work together, get some ideas of what curriculum is already being taught there at the elementary schools so that we can partner together. As they're feeding into our school, we have a better idea of what instruction is being provided there and what level of instruction needs to be, what benchmark needs to be met in order to really qualify for some of the coursework as they're coming into HF. Some visiting, allowing our 153 and our 161 students to visit our programming, have some open conversation and dialogue with HF prior to coming there as 8th graders or even younger. I think that would be a really great way of streamlining the conversation, open communication, open dialogue, and really do a good job of bridging that gap as they're coming into high school for the first time.
Thank you. Ms. Gipson, what are your plans to engage our elementary districts to better prepare incoming students?
I think it's really important to engage the feeder schools that go into HF because the learnings clearly start before HF. So really engaging them and increasing the participation or cross collaboration between the two different levels. to make sure that the students are prepared and they have the resources available to increase their literacy, that's a popular word today, and making sure that they have access to a lot of the resources that HF has, so that the students are well prepared. And I would have to go over there and just really talk and find out, because I haven't had much engagement with the early education schools, but really just find out, do more of a listening tour on that side and find out how we can work together to positively impact the students in their academics before they make it over to HF.
Thank you. Ms. Leonard.
I love this question because I live this all the time. I've had the opportunity to work in unit districts for most of my career, which means we had early childhood all the way up to transition centers within our school district. And so that was a beautiful way to make sure your curriculum was aligned and you were articulating with all your teachers. And now that I work in a high school only district, and I have 8 different districts that come into our schools, it's really difficult to get that alignment with your curriculum and what the students come in moving forward. So what I would do as a board member is I would urge our superintendent to work with the other superintendents at 161 and 153 to identify some days where we could pull staff together and do some K-12, EC-12 articulation with the student or with the teachers so that they can look at curriculum. I do think it would give us an opportunity to look at, going back to that budget question from the beginning, if we are seeing some of our budgets being cut, is there a way we can all share the cost of a program or a curricular resource or a professional development that all of our teachers are getting so that they all have the same training, or we could share the cost of some of those things so that each district isn't doing 3 different things and then coming together and then trying to piece together, okay, well, what did you get at, and even including IJP, because I know we get a lot of IJP kids sometimes too, but how can we include some of that so that we're all doing that vertical alignment and articulation, and even bringing in those teachers to do curriculum work and professional development. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there for us to improve that, and I, as a board member, would urge the superintendents to get together so that we can make that happen.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And Mr. Roundtree?
Yeah, like Dr. Leonard said, I think urging the superintendents, well, not only the superintendents to get together, but I think the department chairs of each district to get together. So that is actually something that. I know that is something that used to be done. I'm not sure if it's still done, but once my wife worked at Parker Junior High. She was at 161, and one of the things that she did was get together as the English department chair for that. I don't remember what it was exactly called, but she would meet with HF's English department chair to make sure that curriculum was aligned, ensure that kids can transition from the junior high into the high school. I think that's very important, and if that's not being done, I would definitely advocate or urge the superintendent to urge the department chairs to do so as well. One thing that Dr. O'Quin said that I thought was very interesting was encouraging the schools to set something up where 8th graders can come in and get a lay of the land of the high school. That was actually something that I got to do when I was coming up, was as an 8th grader, I got to take a field trip to my local high school and tour the place, kind of shadow a student. And I fell asleep from class, but I got to see what high school was like. And it was, it helped me transition, I think, fairly well into high school so that I wasn't just kind of thrown into the wolves. I would advocate for that program in addition to aligning the curriculums with the department chairs.
Thank you very much. All right, well, we got through all of the questions, and now we're going to give each candidate a moment, 1 minute, for a wrap-up statement, and we're going to start with Ms. O'Quin.
Hello. I'm Dr. Camille O'Quin. I am, again, a longtime educator. I've worked 25 years out here in the Chicago Southland. I grew up out here. My kids are freshmen here, and they're doing great. HF has an excellent reputation. HF is excellent. It provides excellent quality service. It's my desire to keep that excellence that HF has already had and continue to expand upon it. My background is not only in speech language pathology as a school, but I also have experience as a director of special education in the area too, with an MTSS specialties. It is my desire to continue to build programs that advocate for success for our students, that ensure that our educators are empowered and uphold HF excellence. Ready to serve, I'm ready to lead in academics. O'Quin for the win.
Thank you. Ms. Gipson? 1 minute.
Thank you. Lenita Gipson again, and thank you for you all for allowing us to speak directly to the community. Really appreciate this opportunity. It's wonderful. We have 5 wonderful candidates for here today, and I bring a unique set of skills in STEM and science and business to the board, and really want to project the students in terms of their science muscle. So I feel like that would be great, especially with the science wing, but the STEM greatness, I think that would help with the school ranking, as well as the students being prepared for college and careers, as well as managing and growing the budget. They're doing a great job with that. Safe and supportive schools, there are grants that are available that the school can take advantage of, as well as making sure every student matters and really meeting them where they are. And they may not want to go to college, they just want to do a trade. But let me get them for April 1st. Let's give you all that. Start in a minute.
Thank you, Ms. Gipson.
Yes, thank you. My pleasure.
Ms. Leonard?
My name is Dr. Ariana Leonard. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak with you guys today. Thanks for coming out. It was a cold Saturday. Just to reiterate, I grew up in the HF community. I moved here when I was 1. I went to HF 153 schools. I graduated from HF in 1999. I moved back here to raise my kids because I love this community and I love HF. I'm really proud to be an alumni from HF. I am an educator by trade, so I feel like my skill set and my expertise in education will lend itself really well to being a school board member and to ensuring that we're operating at very high levels and that HF is continuing to improve and be the best high school it can be in the Chicagoland. I'm honored and humbled to say that the HF Teachers Union has officially endorsed me, and I feel really lucky to have that endorsement. I know along with Dr. Camille O'Quin, we've been endorsed, and Dr. Tamekia Smith. And I'm just really excited to continue to support student success, to continue to empower our educators and engage with the community, because HF is awesome and I want to keep it that way. So thank you so much. Dr. Ariana Leonard.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Roundtree.
Yes, Aredell, AJ Roundtree. I believe that I bring a unique combination of expertise to the HF board. I would, between my strategic decision-making in marketing, my foundational understanding of school district finance, in addition to my deep community involvement, make me a unique candidate for this role. I've been within this community for 20 years. I have kids coming up within 153 currently. I volunteered for the Community Relations Commission within Homewood for 9 years. That's 3 terms. I currently am on the board of director for the Homewood Baseball Softball League. I am very big on this community. I love it so much, and I'm very passionate about education. And I want to continue to see HF succeed, and I want to help propel it to, continue being a top-tier district, and bringing in families who seek out this district, which is going to go ahead and bring in more family, or like I said, it's going to bring in more families, which is going to bring in businesses, which is going to just further. Did you say something? It's just going to further propel Homewood-Flossmoor to the top. So.
Okay.